Hi guys, welcome back to another video. I wanted to do a ICD-10-CM practice exam questions. I know I have a lot more subscribers. Shout out to 15,000 subscribers. I have a lot of newbies coming in, and I wanted to just share some ICD-10 examples with you. So if you have your coding books, that'll be great for you to follow along. If not, that is totally fine. You can just watch me. Okay, so before we get into it, the purpose of your ICD-10-CM codes is this is going to tell the story of why the physician is billing for the service they're billing for. So your ICD-10 code is going to have the disease listed or the disorder listed, whether this was like an accident, did the patient, get into a car accident, was the patient injured playing a sport. These are the codes that are going to explain what happened. Yeah, I did want to explain that. I have here patient present for chemotherapy. The diagnosis the patient has is leukemia associated with anemia. The type of leukemia is hairy cell. What are the ICD-10-CM codes? Well, obviously, we're talking about leukemia and chemotherapy, so that is going to be neoplasms for like cancers. So you want to go over to your guidelines first, and here I am on page 10 in my ICD-10 book. And you see we start at chapter 1, but we need to get to chapter 2 when the neoplasms start. So here we are at chapter 2, neoplasms, and then you have the general guidelines, but then they go into more detailed on specific guidelines. So when you are taking your exam, you want to just skim through the guidelines if it pertains to the scenario that you have for your question. And right here, we see anemia associated with malignancy. So it says when admission or encounter is for management of an anemia associated with malignancy and the treatment is only for anemia, the appropriate code for the malignancy is sequenced as the principal or first listed diagnosis, followed by the appropriate code for the anemia. So we see this patient isn't necessarily coming in for the anemia, so let's keep on looking. And then it says anemia associated with chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and radiation therapy when the admission encounter is for management of an anemia associated with an adverse effect, meaning something happened after the patient was treated. We do not have that scenario. Let's keep on reading. Right here on page 15, we have number 2, patient admission / encounter solely for administration of chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and radiation therapy. So they tell us these codes here, Z5110 is going to be for the radiation therapy, Z5111 is going to be for chemotherapy, and then Z5112 is going to be for the immunotherapy. So with this question that we had, patient presents for chemotherapy. So right there, we know that we are going to be using the Z5111. So let me go ahead and write that down. Hopefully my pen works. Z5111 for that. And then we need to look up our leukemia associated with anemia. D63.0, anemia in neoplastic disease. So right there, they told us another code that we're going to be using, but this one is going to be for the anemia only. We're still going to have to look up that hairy cell leukemia code. So let's go ahead in our alphabetic index, and we are going to look up leukemia, which we are almost there. Right here, leukemia, and then you want to look for hairy cell, which is right there, C91.4. Once you have that, you can go ahead and write that down, C91.4, and then you need to just confirm it in your chapter. Okay, so C91.4, hairy cell leukemia. And you see here, there's a number 5 here. That means this code has 5 digits in order for it to be a valid code. So you do not code the C91.4. You then will look for these three, which one pertains to your situation. And we are going to go with the hairy cell leukemia, not otherwise specified, because we didn't get any other information. So that is our code for that. So we're going to add a 0 here. And then if we go back a step, we'll see that we get some coding tip. In my book at C91, it says terms such as in remission and in relapse must be specified by the provider in order to indicate assignment of a code specifying these terms. If the provider has not specified one of these terms, select the code for not achieving remission. Alrighty, so now let's look up that D63 for that leukemia or anemia in neoplastic diseases. And right here, you see that it says anemia and chronic diseases classified elsewhere. Code first, neoplasm, C00 through D49. We are going to have the Z51 11 first, and then we are going to have C91.40 second, and then the D63.0 is going to be third. Moving on to our next question, we have patient with type 2 diabetes on insulin, hypertension, and chronic kidney disease stage 2. What are the ICD-10-CM codes? So again, you want to start in your guidelines. Okay, so that will be chapter 4, endocrine, nutritional, and metabolic diseases. We see diabetes mellitus, and then we see type of diabetes. Okay, so right here at number 3, it says diabetes mellitus and the use of insulin, oral hypoglycemics, and injectable non-insulin drugs. If the documentation and medical record does not indicate the type of diabetes, but does indicate that the patient uses insulin, code E11, type 2 diabetes mellitus, should be assigned. Additional codes should be assigned from the category Z79 to identify the long-term current use of insulin or oral hypoglycemic drugs, and yada, yada, yada. So, because we know there is insulin involved, so I'm going to write the Z79 here just to get me started and remind myself that I need to know about the insulin. And then it says type 2 is E11. So I can then go ahead and put the E11 down as well. And then is there anything else I need to look at? We need to look for hypertension. So let's keep on going. Okay, so chapter 9, diseases of the circulatory system. We see hypertension right there. Number 1, hypertension with heart disease. Number 2, hypertensive chronic kidney disease. And this one is hypertension with chronic kidney disease. So let's read on here. Assign codes from category I-12, hypertensive chronic kidney disease, when both hypertension and a condition classified to category N18, chronic kidney disease, CKD, are present. CKD should not be coded as hypertensive if the provider indicates the CKD is not related to the hypertension. And in this question, I don't say that. So we're just going to keep pretending that they're related. It says the appropriate code from category N18 should be used as a secondary code with a code from category I-12 to identify the stage of chronic kidney disease. Alrighty, that's perfect. So we know we need to have an I-12 and an N18. So I'm going to write those down as well. I-12 and N18. So let's go ahead and our index and start looking up these codes. So starting with diabetes. Alrighty, here we are at diabetes. We're going to go to type 2, which is here. And then you can see right here it says type 2 with chronic kidney disease, E1122. So let's go ahead and add a 22 on there. And then let's look up hypertension. Here we are with hypertension, and we're going to look for kidney disease, which is kidney here. I-12.9, it says with heart disease, or it says stage 5 or end stage renal disease, or stage 1 through stage 4 chronic kidney disease is I-12.9. So I know that I need to add a 9 on this. And then what about our chronic kidney disease? So we need to go to disease. And we're going to look for kidney. Next page. Right here. Kidney, stage 2 and 18.2. And then when it came to the insulin, you'll have to go to a long term and then look for insulin Z79.4. So let's go ahead and put that 4 behind there. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go to these chapters and figure out how we're going to sequence these codes. The guidelines did tell us to use the N18.2 as an additional code to the I-12.9. So we know that those are going to be listed like that, but let's see if they want us to list the diabetes any specific way. So here we are at E11.22, and it says use additional code to identify the stage of the chronic kidney disease. So we know we can list that one after the diabetes. And then up here, it says when diabetes, CKD, and hypertension are documented, sequence the appropriate category of diabetes with CKD and the appropriate hypertension code, the I-12, prior to the N18. The hypertension or the diabetes may be sequenced first depending on the focus of care. So it really does not matter which one we list first. There also is a note, if you go to the top of E11, always go to the very beginning of where that code starts just to see if you need to add any additional codes. And it does say use additional code to identify the control. And we're going to use the Z79.4. So how we are going to link these is just like this. And you could have either one of these as your first code. It does not matter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys a question, and I'm going to make it a multiple choice question, and I'm going to post it on my community page with some answers so we can kind of do a poll and you guys join in. It does not matter if you don't have your books. You can even pick any one just to see what the right one is, and then later on I'll put in the comments. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on my next one. Bye.